here. I'd like to call this meeting of the Clay County Commission to order. We will begin with our invocation. Jerry Kane will be doing that. By the way, for anyone else who cares to speak, please come up to the podium. Make sure the green light is on the microphone. Identify yourself and then proceed. With that, is it Reverend Kane? Reverend?
This month, our Clay County acknowledges spring. Whether lion or lamb, the grass will turn green. We'll battle the weeds and the lawns that will grow. Through Ramadan, Passover, and Easter, we know. The folks in this room will manage our money. May their words be insightful and sweetened with honey. We pray for a unity to bring us together, both lions and lambs, through rowdy March weather. For blue of stream and blue of sky, for pleasant shade from branches high, for fragrant wind and cooling breeze, for beauty of our blooming trees, we give you thanks, O God. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Nolte? Here. Commissioner Withington?
Here.
Commissioner Lawson? Here. Commissioner Wagner?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson?
Here.
Commissioner Carpenter?
There we go. As approval of the agenda, is there a motion related to the approval of tonight's agenda? Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, sir. I move to approve tonight's agenda as written.
Motion has been made for the approval of tonight's agenda as written. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Wagner?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Withington?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next on our agenda are public comments. Are there any members of the public who would care to comment on any issues not on to this evening's agenda? Seeing none. That brings us to our consent agenda. Administrator?
The consent agenda allows the Commission to act upon items considered to be routine and approved in one motion. These may include items that have been reviewed by the Commission in a prior session. There will be no separate discussion unless a Commissioner requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. There are 4 items on the consent agenda this evening. First item is Resolution 2024-84, which is approving invoice payments for Clay County for the period of March 2nd to March 8th. For a total amount of $481,449.67 for 468 invoices. Resolution 2024-83 is approving a term and supply contract with Courtney Ridge Landfill for debris removal at the Kansas City Trap Shooters Association in Smithfield Lake Park. Resolution 2024-86 is a transfer within a fund in the amount of $70,000 using election cost savings budget for additional legal fees on county matters, and Resolution 24-87, transfer between funds in the amount of $226,685 to accommodate the remaining costs on the comprehensive plan that was not carried over into the 2024 budget.
Thank you. Does any commissioner wish to carve out any of these items? Seeing none, is there a motion related to this evening's consent agenda? Commissioner Johnson.
Move to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Motion's been made for the approval of this evening's consent agenda. Further discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Withington?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. And by the way, Reverend, I neglected to say thank you very much for the invocation. I should have caught that before, and I apologize. That brings us to our regular agenda. First item on this evening's regular agenda is 2024-85. Administrator.
Resolution 2024-85 is a consideration of invoice payments for the Clay County Prosecutor's Office from March 2nd to March 8th. There are a total of 7 invoices that total $1,341.54.
Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, Commissioner Johnson.
Move to approve 2024-85.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2024-85. Any further discussion? Seeing none, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Withington?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Commissioner Wagner?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson?
I recuse myself.
And Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 in favor, 1 recusal.
Second item, and it would appear last item on our regular agenda, is 2024 Ordinance 11. Administrator.
2024 Ordinance 11 is a consideration of reappropriation and revise the adopted budget for the current year for reopening 2024 POs and reappropriate the 2024 budget. Information was included in your packet, and Auditor Herbert is here to answer any questions that the Commission may have. This is a housekeeping issue, accounting issue required for those open POs to carry over into 2024.
Mr. Auditor.
Yes, Victor Hurlbert, Clay County Auditor. So as Administrator said, 2024 Ordinance 11, essentially what we have here we have a calendar year, fiscal year, and every year we allow any open purchase orders a couple months into the new year to get paid off, just to allow those bills some time for those departments to get paid off. Under our ordinances, any of those purchase orders that the Commission specifically approved before are then eligible to be reopened, and so that's what the list is before you. We do have, I'll add in addition, we have a total of 33 purchase orders this year. It's a little bit of a larger list this year, and I'll say the reason for that is because of the American Rescue Plan Act. In fact, 18 of those 33 purchase orders are for the Rescue Plan Act, of course, because it's larger sums of money that take a little bit longer time to move through our system. In fact, of the roughly $9 million of purchase orders that we're reopening tonight, which will also be an adjustment to our budget, reappropriating the budget. About $7.2 million of that is for the rescue plan. So a good bulk of it is due to that. So I would say that's the reason for a rather lengthy list this year as opposed to previous years. With that, you have a list of all the purchase orders there, the vendor who it's due to, the purchase order, the amount, and the specific reason or from the Commission approval that justifies its reopening. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions, Commissioner Lawson?
Yeah, the only question I would have, in your opinion as auditor, are you comfortable with all of this, or is there one of these items that you feel if you were making the decision, you would question whether or not it should happen?
No, so I say, we have a very thorough process of working with all departments and office holders and looking at, all their remaining open purchase orders. We take a lot of communication with them as far as which ones are still open, please let us know, get those through the system so they can be paid off, and then we communicate with them as far as which ones are going to be on our list to reopen and why. And there really weren't many that didn't make the list. So I do feel good that, and again, because the Commission previously approved this specifically as to the dollar amount, so we're just basically carrying those prior approvals forward.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, Commissioner Johnson.
Move to approve 2024 Ordinance 11.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2024 Ordinance 11. Any further discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Withington?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. That concludes this evening's regular agenda. That brings us to discussion items. First item under discussion is presentation on 4-H, and that is from the administration, so please proceed.
Thank you. One of the great programs that we have available here in Clay County for the youth of our communities is our 4-H program. And so this evening we have a guest presenter who just wanted to take a few minutes to highlight all the great opportunities available to our youth and what they're doing. So I'd like to introduce Katie Wright, who's in the audience. I believe she brought some guests with her to talk to the commission about the 4-H program.
Make sure the little green light is on. There's a button there. There you go. And then proceed when you're ready.
Okay, my name is Katie Wright, and I am 16 years old. I have been in 4-H for 6 years. First of all, I want to thank Commissioner Thompson for inviting us to come here tonight. We are all very excited to talk to you all about 4-H. 4-H began in 1902 as a platform for youth to be taught ways to advance agriculture. Since then, it has expanded to include project areas that interest the youth of both rural and urban communities. As of 2023, Clay County has 210 4-H'ers and 6 community clubs. 4-H is a program for youths ages 8 to 18, but also provides a program called Clover Kids for ages 5 to 7. Both programs provide leadership, community service, and citizenship opportunities, while using the monthly meetings to teach parliamentary procedure. While tonight we will talk about the community club aspect of 4-H, school programming is also a part of this organization. In Clay County, our programming is coordinated by Youth Program Associate Amy Klein. Examples in Clay County include Kids in the Kitchen, Science in the Park, and a very popular embryology program. We hope that after tonight you will be eager to support the 4-H program.
Hi, my
You can,
name
you
is
can pull
Molly.
the mic down if you want to. They're flexible.
Hi, my name is Molly White, and I am 11 years old. Today, I'll discuss how 4-H community clubs encourage community service, teach how to hold a business meeting, and expand members' interests through monthly speakers. An important part of 4-H is community service. My club will be volunteering at Harvesters this weekend. In the past, we have visited the Martha Lafitte Wildlife Sanctuary to pick up trash and help where it was needed. We have also visited a nursing home to play games with the residents. 4-H community clubs have monthly meetings where we practice parliamentary procedure. Members also have the opportunity to hold offices. Once elected, officers are expected to perform their duties and support their club. Every 4-H meeting, our club has a program. In the past, a doctor spoke about her career, a veteran talked about his time in Vietnam, and a conservation agent spoke about wildlife in Missouri. If you or someone you know has a hobby or occupation that they are willing to talk to 4-H'ers about, please contact us or the 4-H office. Our community clubs are an important part of 4-H. I hope you now understand what they do and their importance to the 4-H program. Thank you.
My name is Christina Zimmer. I am 17 years old and have been in 4-H for 13 years. I am secretary of the Clay County 4-H Council and the president of the Four Corners 4-H Club. I am here to tell you about the Clay County 4-H Council. The Clay County 4-H Council is a group of youth and adult representatives from each community club. The County 4-H Council provides a link between community clubs and county activities and programs. They provide program and financial guidance for county programs relating to community clubs. Youth members are elected to serve as officers, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. The County 4-H Council meets every 2 months. Representatives are expected to take information back to their clubs and encourage participation in county events.
Hi, my name is Emma Schneiders. This is my 8th year in 4-H. I have 2 titles in 4-H, so I am the president of the Clay County 4-H Council, and I am also on Missouri State 4-H Council, where I am region representative for Urban West, so I oversee Platte, Jackson, and Clay County. So my job on State Council is to be a line of communication between my region and the State Council. So I also help, since we are from an urban area, I help connect 4-H'ers from rural areas to urban areas. And we plan an event called State Congress, where teens 14 to 18 can come to Columbia, Missouri, stay on Mizzou campus, and learn a lot of career skills, college and further educational skills. Yeah, we plan that activity, and I am running for the board of directors next year, so I could possibly be president, vice president, or secretary.
Hi, my name is Mary Wright, and I am 11 years old. Tonight, I'm going to discuss 4-H project areas, project leaders, and the county fair. Every fall, 4-H members choose projects to enroll in for that year. Examples include robotics, camping, woodworking, and photography. A full list of projects is in this brochure. Projects leaders hold meetings with the youth. 4-Hers need a total of 6 hours of meeting time in each project area. This is usually 3 meetings, lasting 2 hours each. A common place for meetings is at a public library. 4-H members take the information they learn from these meetings and work on projects for the annual county fair. At the fair, judges visit with 4-H members about their projects and award ribbons. It is also where they give demonstrations, and we have our public speaking competition. You can volunteer to judge projects, demonstrations, or even speeches. 4-H has been a wonderful experience for me, and I think others would agree. It has shown me how to grow in my club and my community. If you are interested in volunteering, you can talk to us or the 4-H office. We greatly appreciate the help. Thank you.
Public speaking is one of the many project areas 4-H offers. It is a practical skill 4-Hers will use for the rest of their life, no matter how advanced technology becomes. I have been in public speaking for 5 years now, and this year I have the opportunity to be a public speaking junior leader for my 4-H club. It has been an amazing experience for me. In 4-H, public speaking contests occur at the county, state, and national level. There are many different categories, including extemporaneous and dramatic interpretation. I have learned how to use gestures, eye contact, posture, and voice inflection to effectively convey my ideas to an audience. 4-H activities have provided me with multiple opportunities to learn more about the invaluable art of public speaking.
Now I'm going to speak about Clay County 4-H's shooting sports program. Shooting sports is one of the largest project areas in Clay County 4-H. It is managed as a county-wide project, which means any 4-H member enrolled in Clay County 4-H may participate. We focus on safety, shooting as a vocation, and competition. Missouri 4-H Shooting Sports offers air rifle, small bore rifle, air pistol, small bore pistol, archery, shotgun, muzzle loading, hunting and outdoor skills, and Western heritage. In Clay County, we offer all of those with the exception of muzzle loading, hunting and outdoor skills, and Western heritage. All disciplines are coached by coaches certified through 4-H. We currently have 45 participants and 15 certified instructors. Youth from ages 8 to 18 may participate in this program. Youth have opportunities to compete at the county, state, and national level. I have had the privilege of being a member of the state recurve archery team last year and the state compound archery team this year. Members of the state team compete at the National 4-H competition in Grand Island, Nebraska at the end of June. Another opportunity that 4-H has is the 4-H Outbound program, which is a foreign exchange program. I was one of the 4-Hers that got to go on one of these trips, so this last summer I went to Costa Rica for a month and I lived with a host family. 4-H Outbound also holds various other countries, including Japan, South Korea, and some Norwegian ones. They change every year. It's a really awesome opportunity. You get to live in home with a family, and they do orientation with you. I highly recommend it, and it was a really great opportunity for me, and it is one of our more tangible things that 4-H can offer.
All right, does anyone have any questions for any of us here?
Commissioner Lawson.
Well, not so much a question, but I just wanted to say that these young ladies are a prime example of how the 4-H programs develops fantastic citizens. We were very fortunate. Our son belonged to 4-H. Our granddaughter belonged to 4-H. And it's not just whether you're horses or your photography or whatever you are. They develop more than the skill. They develop a rich understanding of our country, all of our rights, prayer, everything we hold dear in this country. They foster all of that with these young people. And for 11-year-old kids to come up here and speak before this body, to me, it just tells you what a phenomenal program 4-H is. So I 1,000% support y'all. I think that you're a great example of what we'd like our youth to be. And the program certainly has developed you into wonderful young women.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you, and I want to echo my colleague. Thank you for what you have done. Thanks for what you continue to do. And what I wanted to comment on is, clearly you have learned all these skills, and there's more skills that you will learn. And I just want to encourage you that there is great opportunity for you in leadership for this entire community. And wherever your pathway may take you, whether it is to stay here in Clay County or to go wherever you may go, I want you to notice my colleague, Commissioner Lawson, my colleague, Commissioner Thompson, our county administrator, Diana Wright, to let you know that there is great leadership. And frankly, there's a whole bunch of folks over in this section who run a lot of departments here in this county that are women. And I want you to know that their jobs could be your job should you choose that that's the direction that you want to go. And so I am so enthused by what you have done. I'd love to hear more about the Norway trip and what you've done there. But I know we got other things, I'm told. But anyway, you've done so much in just this limited time that you've been associated with 4-H. I want to encourage you and I want to challenge you that there is much more leadership opportunities out there for you, whether it's here in Clay County or anywhere else. And I just want to encourage you to take those opportunities just as you have to do so much more. But thank you again for being here tonight.
Commissioner Thompson. Oh, let me go ahead.
I'm not doing great in leadership today.
There you go.
Thank you. There we go. Ladies, I want to thank you so much for coming up. And Katie, when I told you we can come on up here and see us, I'm so glad you jumped on that opportunity. It's an honor for me to have you guys up here. I've been following the 4-H since I've been up in county government since 2014. So I come in and volunteer at all of they were talking about the other displays that they do. So I'm going to wrangle some more of you this year because I actually got Joanne last year to come up, but I've got the great honor of being able to taste test a lot of things that came from the Wright family themselves. So I sat at the table where they brought us food and it just kept coming and it was fabulous. So I'll be there again this year and I will continue to be on the board for the remainder of this year, but I think you ladies do a great job. And there's a lot of others that are not here this evening, that could not be here. And I'm always blown away by the magnitude of what you all accomplish and what you are doing. And all the little things in this book, they're always looking for speakers. They need people to come help them for their trips. They need people to help donate so they can go on these trips. So I'm going to encourage everybody to help out. And you guys are amazing. So thank you so much for coming out.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, ladies, so I've never been part of 4-H, but I have a lot of close family friends that grew up in the organization, the program, and I got to tell you, it's been real impressive what that organization, and the kind of people that it produces. And tonight, particularly, I just want to acknowledge how impressed I was with your public speaking. That's not easy to do. In fact, I couldn't do that when I was your age. And we talk about, an 11-year-old getting up to speak publicly. That's very difficult to do, but I actually think it's probably even more difficult for teenagers to speak publicly. I mean, that's the time of life where you're really self-conscious, and a lot of people couldn't do what you did. And not only did you do it, you did it very well. And I'm sure that's probably part of, as you mentioned, some of the program that you went through. So I congratulate you for that and commend you for that. And like my colleague, said about some of these women up here, most of them are just really smooth talkers. So as long as you get that down, I mean, that's half the battle. So, but no, in all seriousness, congratulations. You guys did a great presentation tonight. I'm really impressed with your public speaking. It was a good job.
Commissioner Withington.
Jay and I think just alike. He said basically what I was going to say. I would have never been able at 11 or 17 to get up here and talk in front of us, and I suck at public speaking right now. So I just want to say thank you guys for coming up here and aim higher than Clay County. You guys could be like, you guys could be like the next first female president, and stuff like that. Aim higher than Clay County. But thank you guys for coming up here, okay?
Thank you so much.
I just want to echo what my colleagues have been saying, and that is you were very impressive up here. We've had a number of people speak before this body, but you folks are pretty much at the top of the list as far as poise and being able to communicate to us and pretty clearly outline what you have to say. So we certainly appreciate the abilities that you've developed, and it's going to be very exciting to watch as you develop further into this program. And 4-H is, I was not a member either, but obviously you are very good examples of what 4-H is capable of producing. And it's going to be very exciting to see where the future takes you, because you are very poised, very well spoken, and you have the ability to express yourselves in a way that some of us are a little envious of some days, I think. Yeah. Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure. We're going to go ahead and pause for a moment. We'd like you ladies to come forward, and we would like the opportunity to have a couple of pictures with you and let your families and whoever else is here maybe get a few pictures as well. So with that, we will pause for a moment. That was one of the more fun parts of our evening. Thank you very much, ladies, for being here today. That brings us to the next item on our discussion agenda, and that would be proposed provisions, chapter 33 and 34, Code of Ordinances of Clay County. That is also, there you are, the administrator. You're just too fast for me. Please proceed.
Well, I certainly have a tough act to follow tonight in presenting, so I will try and do my best. They've certainly set the bar this evening. They did a great job. As part of the change in our form of government, we have been making a lot of changes in our operations. And so we have now taken the opportunity, we're starting to go through some of our code of ordinances to determine what needs to be changed, not only to be in compliance with the charter, but also, what is our current practice? That happens sometimes where practices change, but we don't go back and take a look at the legislation, and also to make sure that we're also compliant with any statutory changes that have occurred. So tonight before you, we have included in your packet some proposed changes for chapters 33 and chapter 34. In your packet, you have a red line version, which is showing you what is in the current ordinance and the current code, and what we're recommending to add or to delete. And then we also gave you a clean copy, because sometimes those red line versions get a little difficult to follow and to look at all the changes. So with that, I'd like to start and talk about Chapter 33. Chapter 33 is intended to talk about those boards and commissions that are statutory boards and commissions. And so what you have here in front of you, which was also included in your packet, is sort of a summary of the proposed changes by article for you. So I'm just going to go through these briefly and be happy to answer any questions about the proposed changes. So in Chapter 33, Article 1, those are the general provisions of is the topic of that particular article. And we simply just made some updated. You've noticed there's a chart that references where in the state statute these particular boards and commissions are referenced, and also just some cleaning up of some administrative aspects. Article 2 is a little bit more confusing. Article 2 in the current Chapter 33 is entitled Domestic Violence Board, which we do have. However, if you read what is in the current chapter, it refers to a Tri-County Domestic Violence Board. And as a state statute, we do not have a Tri-County Domestic Violence Board. What we believe happened is what they were referring to was the statutory Tri-County Mental Health, the Mental Health Board that is by state statute, which is actually also outlined in Article 3 of this chapter. So we are recommending to delete all the things that are currently in Chapter 33 referencing a Tri-County Domestic Violence Board and replacing it with what we have about our current Domestic Violence Board, but that currently sits in Chapter 34. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but Chapter 34 is non-statutory boards. And because our Domestic Violence Board is a statutory board, we're recommending that that be moved out of Chapter 34 and placed into this Article 2 of Chapter 33. Article 5 is the Planning and Zoning Bylaws.
Excuse me for just a minute, Joe. Commissioner Lawson, did you have a question?
I'll wait till she's finished.
Oh, okay.
Article 5 is the Planning and Zoning Bylaws. And what we're recommending and gone through the red lines are basically updating this to align with our charter form of government. There were changes made to planning and zoning when that occurred, and also just how they're actually operating, their dates and times. And so really just some housekeeping issues. Article 8 is the Park Board. And what we're recommending here, this again is a statutory board, but we're recommending to expand the duties to provide advice not only on our park system, but also our historical sites and the golf complex. Article 10 is the Board of Zoning Adjustments, and this has to be updated per our Constitution. As you know, prior to the Constitution, there were individuals and residents that were appointed to this pursuant to the Constitution. Now that is held by 3 commissioners. So again, just aligning with what we need to do to be in compliance. Article 11 is the Building Codes Commission. This is a statutory commission, but it currently sits in Chapter 34. And so we're moving it from Chapter 34 into Chapter 33. The Article 12 is the Industrial Development Authority. Again, this is a statutory board that right now sits in Chapter 34, but should be in Chapter 33. We didn't have anything with regard to the Mid-Continent Library, so we are recommending that we add an Article 13. Again, this is statutory. With the Mid-Continent Library, the commission does appoint Clay County members to that particular library board, so we've added that in the statutory requirements. And then in this section is also Appendix A, which is an organizational chart, which again is simply just a matter of updating. Now, I'm happy to stop here on Chapter 33 before we go to Chapter 34 and answer any questions.
Commissioner Lawson, would you like to chime in now?
Yeah, I do.
There you go.
On the park board and the golf board, you know, here's the thing. We ask these people, or people ask to serve on these boards. And it seems as though a lot of times in the past, I felt that those appointed, it was purely a political thing. Oh, my buddy John is now on the board, and John's been wanting to be on the board, that kind of a thing. I feel like we've got some really great boards now. were the people that currently serve on the golf board, were they talked to about this change where they're going to be incorporated into the park board in any way?
The golf board has not met in, I would say, probably over 2 years. All the terms are expired. And so I would ask, Carl or John if they have any insight to that. We do know that we've had some conversations with the park board, the existing park board, about having that fall under the umbrella. I think in the past, there was a separate golf board, and I think part of that was an opportunity to play golf without membership or fees. And so we're recommending that the park board oversee all of those things, whether it's the golf course, our parks, or our historical facilities.
Okay. Now, and then has the park board going to be increased to absorb a couple of people that are golf nuts, if you will?
No, right now, the proposal is it does not increase the number of golf or members on the park board. I do believe that when some of the most recent appointments to the park board, that was taken into consideration because, again, you want somebody on there that is a golfer, right, that can provide insight to that.
Who do we have besides, I think McHugh? Joe McHugh?
Mr. McHugh was one of our most recent, I believe it's your recommendation, he was one of our more recent appointees.
I mean, are they golfers?
I think, Joe, let me put it this way, people in my age group, and Joe and I are in this similar age group, generally are golfers. I'm kind of an outlier. But I wouldn't swear to the fact that whether he's a golfer or not.
I just think we're not given enough thought in doing that we do have people on the park board who are golf intensive so that they can administer that a little bit better, offer better ideas because they're out there playing golf. Not just say, well, you fish all the time, but what do you think about the golf course?
Now you recommended Joe, so I don't know. You know him better than I do as far as what.
Well to know that he golfs or he doesn't golf.
There wasn't
But
really
anyway, I think it would be a nice thing to do. The other thing I'd like to see with our boards is I would like to see the board come in every quarter or however, maybe once or twice a year, and kind of talk to us about, here's what we've been doing, here's the things we feel are important, and the things that we feel are shortcomings. We want to address this to the county, maybe we can make it better. I think that they meet, they do their magic, but I don't see it coming back so much to help us. They're supposed to be advisory boards, right? And I don't see them doing any advisory stuff. So I just think it'd be nice if we invited them in now and again. And I'd like to see that be an actual edict, if you will, or whatever, where they at least come in once or twice a year, or if they feel that there's something that's important, come on in and talk to us about it. But I think we need to say that to them.
And they do come in, for instance, I think the airport board was in at some point, or at least some of its members were.
I'm sorry?
I think the airport board might have been in when we were doing some discussions. I'm trying to remember, and I don't really right off the top of my head. But yeah, I think it would be good to have these various advisory committees come in. I think it's going to depend on a couple of things. One is, when they have something that they want to report or recommend to us.
Yeah.
I think that's a key thing, to have them just come in for the sake of coming in. But yeah, I've extended that offer to basically through the chairs of those committees for the most part.
Well, I've gone to a number of boards, and I always feel very welcomed. But I don't. A couple of times, people have said to me, "Well, we enjoy being on the board, but it doesn't seem like anybody listens to us." And I think that we want to foster that stronger relationship between the boards and the commission and our administration. So we kind of know what's going on out there. They have their finger on it a little bit better than we do sometimes, especially Park. So anyway, just my suggestion that I'd like to see that happen. And then on your, Diana, where's the flow chart upgrade? Oh, there we go. I'd like to, can any of you read that?
Yeah, that is the same organizational chart that's in the budget, that's presented from the budget. So it's very high level.
What we have had?
Yeah, it reflects the 2023 structure. And quite frankly, we may want to consider actually taking that out of the Code of Ordinances, because we do put it in the budget when the budget's adopted every year. Because again, it's one of those things that if we make any changes, my guess is somebody will have to remember, oh, we need to go back and change chart Appendix A in Chapter 33, as opposed to just making sure it's always in the budget reflecting that year's organizational structure.
Well, and I'm not being unkind when I say this, but last year, when we first saw the organizational chart, I didn't have my stuff together good enough just walking into this job to really look and evaluate that chart. Now I feel like I've got my feet on the ground just a little bit better. I'd like to, if we've had that in there, I'd like to just have it pulled out maybe. We have a little bit clearer look at it, and then be able to discuss it at a future meeting if anybody has a problem with that. I think that's something that's extremely important, or I feel it is. Maybe nobody else feels that way.
Maybe you can take a look at it, and then if you feel it warrants that, then, we can go from there. Because you may look at it and say, you know what, I don't know that it is.
Yeah.
So kind of evaluate it and let us know what your thoughts are.
Okay, yeah, and then we can bring it back. So I don't want to vote on it until I have a chance to look at it a little better.
Well, again, my recommendation when this Chapter 33 would come back, it would not be included as an appendix. It would be eliminated because it sits in the budget document.
Do what? I couldn't hear you.
I said, my recommendation when we bring back Chapter 33 for consideration, that Appendix A is eliminated. It's deleted.
Thank you.
Because again, it is in the budget and you approve that every year during the budget process.
Yeah, but we're approving so darn much,
Yeah.
We're so concentrated on, does this guy have enough money or does that guy have too much money? So this is a kind of a separate, in my opinion, a bit of a separate entity, and I'd like a chance to kind of peruse it just a little bit more before we give it our blessing.
Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Just a couple things. First, I'll always encourage, to our colleagues' point, these organizations that we put people to these commissions to feel a little bit more proactive about communicating with us. I think that there is always good things that come from that. I also tend to agree, Administrator, with the thought on Appendix A, because it seems to me that if it is in ordinance, then when we need to do flexible things, you have an inflexible tool, right? So keeping that out and having that reside in the budget makes sense to me. The other thing, though, I was going to comment on was with the Park Board, and only from my own experience as a member from 2019 to 2023, I guess, before coming in here with the Kansas City Parks Board, where we did have those golf complexes all in there. And of course, up here in Clay County, that included Hodge Park, that includes Shoal Creek. I would note in the 3.5 years that I served on that board, the only time we talked about the golf complexes was either because it was time to talk about fees for the year, or it was because there had to be some work done that staff brought forward. And so I do feel like that park board body can handle that. I don't think they're going to have anything that's going to be too complex that they can't, non-golfer like myself, and I will freely admit to it, I do much better with a baseball bat than a 9-iron, but just to say the items that were considered were not a lot. And so I certainly don't have any issue with combining that here. So just to offer that experience and advice, but appreciate the work you've done.
I also am probably more comfortable with a baseball bat, but I find the golf ball so much more difficult to hit with a bat. They're too small. I think that there's a general agreement with your thought of taking the appendix out of that. So, I mean, that seems to be, if you were looking for that feedback, that seems to be the consensus up here.
Okay,
With that, I don't see any other questions. If you'd like to proceed.
thank you. So now we'll move to Chapter 34, which are non-statutory boards and commissions. And these are boards and commissions that the county commission establishes for a particular purpose. And so what you get, again, the same philosophy. You have a red line version, you have a clean version to read, and then I will talk a little bit high level about the article or section and the proposed changes. And I will start out and preface this where many of these, several of them that you see on here that we're recommending to delete, they are non-operational. We could find no minutes. Some, I don't think, have even had a formation meeting when they were established many years ago. And so our recommendation to the commission in those particular purposes is, should there become a need and the commission wants to establish a board or commission or a task force for a specific purpose, certainly that is our recommendation. But to the point that was made earlier, having boards and commission appointing people and they have no purpose and they never meet is not fair to those individuals that are basically signing up to do something for the county, yet there really is no purpose in which they're doing. So starting with that, Article 3 as the Airport Advisory Committee. Pretty much it is a little bit of a housekeeping issue, although the current ordinance that was adopted by the prior commission that left on the last year sort of their action went from 5 members to the airport committee to 18 members on the airport committee. Now, I will tell you, as someone who has facilitated committees and organizations, 18 members is a lot. We don't have 18 people that are appointed. I don't think when this went into place, 18 have never been appointed. So we are recommending that to take that back to 5, which is what it was before that last ordinance changed. Article 4 is about the Building Codes Commission. This is a statutory board and commission, and so we're recommending that be moved into Chapter 33. Article 5 is a Fine Arts Commission. Again, we're recommending that this be deleted. It's been non-operational for a long, long time. Now, they did a great amount of work many, many years ago when it came to the murals and some of the things on the outside of their buildings, but right now, there isn't a purpose, there isn't anyone assigned to these, and so we would recommend removing that from the code, and again, should there be a desire or a need, then establish a committee or a task force at that particular time. Article 6.
Excuse me, Commissioner Withington, would you like a question at this point or until she's finished with this page?
Yeah, I just have a question.
Sure, go right ahead.
So on the airport, you said we're going to move it from 18 to 5. How many people do we currently have?
I think we have 5 now.
All right, so they're not going to have to pick
Yeah,
straws?
no, we're not
Okay.
cutting anybody or doing anything. That's really been our mode of operation, and we're really just aligning the code to what has been in place for a number of years.
Okay, and there's nobody on the Fine Arts Committee?
No,
Okay.
no.
I know-
And we couldn't find any minutes
Okay.
or any announcements of meetings.
Yeah, I'm fine with getting rid of that. I know you guys, Liberty has a arts committee and they're doing, yeah, and I knew that they're active. I see their sculptures and stuff.
Yeah.
So, okay, those were just the 2 questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Please continue.
Sure. So again, the Golf Advisory Committee, again, we're saying we merge that function in with the Park Board in Chapter 33. The Industrial Development Authority, which is in Article 7. Again, that's a statutory board, and so we're moving that into Chapter 33. We have Article 8, which is a Special Events Committee. Again, we have no one on the committee. We're not aware. We have no minutes. We haven't found of any announcements. So we're again recommending that that be deleted from the code, which does not prevent the commission from establishing a special event committee. You did such when it was the celebration of the county's anniversary, and that was a specific committee formed with a purpose. Article 10 is a sewer advisory board. Again, So we looked at when this was added to the code, we have not found any time that there's been any minute meetings, anything that we could find in the record, so we consider that non-operational. I think we've had some discussion about the county not wanting to be in the sewer business, that we're encouraging, those type of developments and the densely type of subdivisions to annex into municipalities. And then Article 11 is the Domestic Violence Advisory Board. And as I mentioned earlier, that's a statutory board, and we are moving and recommending that that be moved into Chapter 33.
Commissioner Johnson.
First of all, thank you, Dana, for all the work you put into this. I agree with all this. I fully support what you're proposing here. I think people need to understand that Clay County is evolving and evolving rapidly. As you can see by now we have 7 commissioners instead of 3. We have a new constitution. Things are much different now, and a lot of this is just old stuff that hasn't been cleaned up. It just needs to be cleaned up, and probably should have been cleaned up a lot sooner, but we're getting around to it now. But no, I agree. This is part of, sometimes government gets too big and they got to shrink back down. And what I do like is we can clean all this stuff up, but none of this precludes us from starting up another committee or a board or commission if the need arises for anything that may come up in the future. But right now, I agree with you on this, and a lot of these we just don't need to clean these up. So thank you for it, and you have my support.
I also want to say thank you for the hard work on this. I also want to point out that there were some rather bizarre actions in years past. The 18 rather than 5 members on the Airport Advisory Board, which sort of stands out. But the other thing that I want to acknowledge the administrator and the staff have been doing, and that is there were, and I won't get into detail on this unless anybody wants to, but there were irregularities in the terms that were appointed to some of the positions. I think we're pretty close to completing the process of making sure that there are staggered terms, which I think is vitally important when it comes to keeping the balance between new people and new ideas being brought forward and the experienced folks who have seen a thing or few. So while that's not reflected on this document, I did want to point out the work that the administrator had done on that line in realigning these things. So we are now, I think, in a much better place as far as the positions and how they are succeeded, so that we don't have such a balance. We should not be in a position to where, if we have a 7-person board, 6 of them come up at once. We have to keep that rotation in some degree of equilibrium. So are there any other questions at this point?
And just along those lines, as part of that cleaning up, and so we appreciate those individuals that were appointed, because what we found is they got off cycle. Not only the time of year that their term was, and so what was happening is they'd have a vacancy, and so then they would appoint them then for a 4-year term or 3-year term or whatever, as opposed to filling a vacancy, a seat, and then doing it, so we're staying on cycle. So we have worked diligently with some of the most recent reappointments and appointments to get everything sort of back in alignment.
And often it's a matter of talking to the nominees and making sure they understand if they're being appointed to a slightly different cycle than they understood, to explain. And I think everyone has been completely understanding of the idea of getting us back onto the cyclical protocol that we really need to have. So with that, are there any further questions or comments that the Commission would like to address? Do you have anything you'd like to conclude with, Administrator?
I do. We will then remove the Appendix A out of Chapter 33, the organizational chart. I'll keep referring that in the budget. And so with that, we'll bring this forward to the Commission next week for your consideration to amend Chapters 33 and 34.
And I believe you have the consensus. I didn't formally ask, but I believe you have consensus to go forward with what you presented. Is that correct? I see nods and thumbs up, so thank you very much. Excuse me. Next item, and the final item on our discussion items, are revisions to the 2011 Land Development Code, pools and hot tubs. Should we not be conducting this meeting in hot tubs with some beverage of one sort or another? Mr. Jones, I'm holding you responsible for that.
I wish we could, sir.
Move along, move along.
So Kip Jones, Planning Director. So we have a discussion item for pools and spa section of the Land Development Code tonight. So this really started with the Board of Zoning adjustment. So we can blame Commissioner Lawson and Commissioner Wagner for that because they approved a variance for a pool cover in lieu of a fence. So staff thought that might be a good time to kind of revisit this code and see if this should be changed. So want to talk about the current text a little bit, and then we'll talk about the proposed amendment that the Planning and Zoning Commission came up with. So the current text requires either a fence or wall with self-latching gate and does not allow for a pool cover to replace that fence or wall. The fence or wall has to have a minimum height of 48 inches. There's also some other requirements here that the Planning and Zoning Commission chose not to change. I want to talk about the surrounding areas a little bit and what the other jurisdictions do. So we looked at everybody kind of in the general vicinity, and it's kind of half and half. You can see Liberty, Kearney, Clinton County, and Ray County require a fence, whereas Smithville, Excelsior Springs, and Platte County allow for a cover in lieu of a fence. So kind of split right down the middle. What the Planning and Zoning Commission came up with wasn't a major change to the current code, but it would allow a fence or wall with self-latching. They added self-closing gates, and they voted to allow a powered safety cover for pools. For hot tubs and spas, it would be, again, the fence or wall with self-latching and self-closing gates, or a safety cover. You notice that it's not a powered safety cover for the pool or hot tub because that's a smaller body of water. So they're recommending that we allow the cover in lieu of the fence, which is consistent with the 2018 and later editions of the building codes. And it's also consistent with the 2012 and later versions of the pool and spa code. So basically the big change is allowing a powered safety cover for a pool and a safety cover for the pool and hot tub, but they have to meet certain specifications. So the building code requires that the pool covers meet the ASTM standards. They do a bunch of tests on the pool covers where they have to hold so much weight. If there's so much weight on them, there can only be so much deflection where a child can't raise the pool cover where a child could slide underneath the cover if somebody's standing on it. So there are still standards that it would have to meet. The Planning and Zoning Commission met at 3 meetings over this topic, had quite a bit of discussion amongst the members. We opened it up for public comment, but did not have any members of the public that chose to comment. And they voted 8-0 to recommend this revision that you're seeing in front of you today. Really what we're doing today is just kind of throwing that out, seeing what the commission chooses to do. You could go with what the Planning and Zoning Commission is recommending. You could amend, or we could choose to not change the current code at all. So with that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Before I go to questions, could you give us the what the an acronym means, the ASTM, what that stands for, just so everybody knows?
You know, I don't even know that, to tell you the truth. I'd have to look that up. It's American Safety Testing Materials, maybe something along those lines.
I'll go with that.
But it's a it's standard language out of the building code. All the ICC building codes recommend that standard.
We've been through it a couple of times, obviously, in planning and zoning, and I was trying to remember, and I couldn't, so I thought, oh, okay, I'll ask. But
I'll tell you, after 3 meetings at Planning and Zoning Commission, I have dreams about pools. So
let's go with Commissioner Wagner on that one. Commissioner?
Thank you. I think this is probably where the joke I should make is about the hot tub time machine, and takes us back to last summer when we discussed this in our BZA meeting. Just for further context, the issue for the 3 of us was in this, correct me if I'm wrong, but, and I know you will. In this particular case, the property was somewhat isolated from the neighbors around it, and pardon me, the likelihood of a neighbor just getting into it was very, very slight. The issue was more about animals, deer in particular, and the thought was you could have a fence, but it's just going to jump the fence. And so the cover that was used, and as it was displayed by the applicant, was one where it could not only support a deer standing on it, it could support a person standing on it without them sinking, into it. So the applicant's contention was, we've actually made this safer because of the type of cover that we've used. The fence would mean absolutely nothing. The three of us on that board decided that that actually made some sense in this case, and Kip, being as diligent as he is, suggested, well, this may require an ordinance change to reflect this sort of decision, which I think the three of us at that time also said that's fine, because this just seems to make sense in this case. And so I don't think we had any issues with what we put forward at that time, and at least speaking for myself, I think what is here is consistent with what we had discussed back in the summer. So just to give you that further context as to why this is coming forward today. And Kip, I do appreciate you doing 3 meetings and dreaming about pools, and that'll come in handy this summer, I'm sure. So thank you.
I have done a moment's research. ASTM stands for American Society of Testing and Materials. So there's my contribution to the knowledge base of our commission for the moment. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, sir. So I've been through this several times. When I lived in Southern California, I built a couple pools. And one of the reasons why I left Southern California is because of the government overreach and how many regulations we had. What I think is interesting is right now, if I were to build a pool at my house where I live now in Clay County, I'd be required to put a 48-inch fence around it. Yet the 1.5 acre pond that sits right next to it doesn't have to be enclosed at all, any kind of fencing, which I would think would pose just as much of a risk to drowning as a pool would, although I'm not suggesting that we require fences around ponds. I'm just saying it's kind of ironic how this works, as I've been thinking about putting a pool in and how this fencing would work. One of the questions I have is number 4. It says, enclosing the entire yard containing the swimming pool, hot tub, or spa in accordance with these requirements shall satisfy the intent of this section. So if I get that right, if you have a tract home that has a fence all the way around the backyard with the proper latches, self-closing, does this require self-closing? Yeah, self-closing gates with self-latching gates that enter the backyard, does that suffice it?
Yes, sir.
It doesn't require alarms on the back doors of the house leading to the backyard?
No, and we had much discussion at the planning and zoning level about the alarm, because several jurisdictions do require the alarm, and the consensus of the Planning and Zoning Commission was that they did not want to go down that road.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, the alarm is put in just to pass inspection, and the battery's taken out right away. Every place I've seen, that's how it works. So alarms are kind of a waste. The other question was, let's see. It escapes my mind right now. I should have written it down. Oh, I forget. Oh, if I remember, I'll come back to it. But yeah, so I always worry about government overreach. I always worry about telling people, give people too many restrictions. I think we need to strike that balance of, hey, we want to be safe. I want to be safe for kids. And it brings up the question, what if you have a bigger piece of property, several acres, the entire acreage is fenced in? But would you still require the same thing within that acreage?
No, we actually, Commissioner Thompson and I had a situation that was similar to that, where she was contacted by a citizen that I can't remember how many acres he had, but it was greater than 20, and he had a fence around his entire property, a gate on the driveway, and it sufficed and met the code.
Okay, and so, but is there any particular restriction on that fence around the entire property? Let's say it's a big piece of property, several, 40 acres. just a fence with a gate? It doesn't have to match these?
4-foot tall fence, as long as it meets that standard. The building code includes specific, like, opening requirements.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to work through that part as we adopt a new building code, but that's not how we've enforced it. As long as it's a 4-foot tall fence with self-latching, or at this point, self-latching gates, then it would suffice.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kip.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none. So you will be then presenting this to us at some future meeting for us to take action on?
Yes, sir. We will present this as an agenda item with a more detailed staff report and be happy to answer any questions you have at the next meeting.
And do you feel like you've gotten the feedback you need from us up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Very good. That ends our discussion items. Number 10 are our reports. We have the auditor's cash basis monthly report. Mr. Auditor? Yeah, I was going to say we should have it, so.
Yes, Victor Hurlbert, Clay County Auditor. Yeah, so usually we just submit this as written reports, but I'm happy to give I think Commissioner Lawson indicated at one point, maybe I could, discuss the monthly report. Wouldn't be too bad of a thing to do, but it's in your packet, and so this is for the month of February. We're 2 months into the year, or basically, 1/6, 2/12, 1/6, and so I guess we'll go ahead and highlight some main sections. I would say, we're looking at about $75 million cash on hand. If you recall, our county budget was, roughly $160 million. 150 million, excluding transfers, 120 million for, excluding some of those like one-time dollars. So you can see that that's a pretty healthy cash balance at present. And although, I would just say kind of something to keep in mind is a lot of that cash balance builds up at the start of the year because of property tax collections and commissions and things like that. So it does draw down over time. But that's where we're at countywide on a cash base, on the current cash balance. Quickly I'll point out one thing I really like to pay attention to is looking at statement of revenues and expenditures on page 5, year to date throughout the year. And so, to me, that looks at, are we in the positive? Have we had more revenues and expenditures? And to date, it's $15.3 million. So that's something I would just recommend as we go through the month. You can keep an eye on that, see how we're progressing. Only other things I'll kind of highlight, when we compare February 24 to 23, you've probably seen our treasurer's report. Sales taxes are 35% higher in the general fund. You have use taxes between our two major use taxes, roughly 75% higher, except for the use tax parks and trails fund is about the same because we've put more emphasis and allocation onto the general use tax and the highway use tax. Quickly, just some other highlights. I'll say that looking at comparing the going 2 months from 2024 to 2023, not just February, we are roughly 2.7 million higher on total revenues to date. However, we are 2.5 million higher in expenditures. So the net is 200,000 when you compare January to February, 24 to 23. So not much of a difference there, but in the positive would be something to look at. So those are just real highlights. Anyway, I saw a quick discussion on the monthly audit report, so I thought I'd discuss it a little bit. Happy to answer any questions.
We certainly appreciate you giving us the lowdown on this, and it's always great to hear from you. Commissioner Wagner, you were seeking recognition?
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Auditor, for jumping up. You may regret that with my, I don't know, you're not going to regret
That's
it.
okay. No, I appreciate it.
No, so as you know, I have a love-hate relationship with carryover. When you said that we've got 75 million in the bank, which love it, but I am curious, and if you don't know the answer when we get back, that's fine. But I am curious of that 75 million, what would be considered carryover, if any?
Yeah, so I think if I recall, the year-ending balance that we did carry over was north of $50 million with anticipated revenues of something over $90 million. And then with transfers got us to the 150 X transfers.
Yeah.
So if we're at, 75 now, I guess you could look at it that way, that, cash balance has grown, roughly $20 million since the end of the year.
Gotcha.
Would be a good way to look at it. So that's appreciable. But again, I think it's kind of how I discussed about you do have the start of the year jump. We're not so subject to certain taxing jurisdictions that are really reliant on property taxes, of course.
Right.
As we know, most of our tax revenues come from sales taxes.
Right.
But nevertheless, we do have an appreciable jump at the start of the year. So
Gotcha.
I guess I would say that's where we're at currently.
Okay, great. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure. Commissioner Lawson.
The only thing I wanted to say was thank you very much. I'm not a financial whiz, but I like the way that you put this together. It is easily understandable. So I appreciate you doing that and all the hard work that you do. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it. Since I've taken office here, we really tried to improve the presentation on this, at least to make it a little more visually appealing with graphs, so that for the governing board to be able to and the taxpayers quickly just digest the information, compare year to year. So we'll continue to improve that as we go.
Further comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you once again for a very professional presentation. That brings us to County Administrator comments. Administrator?
Just a couple of items. One, this week we were notified by Congressman Graves' office that $4 million for 291 from Flintlock to, I believe, 104th for improvements and repairs has sort of made it through the first step of the house. So, until the check's signed, right? But we certainly appreciate the Congressman's work on that for work to be done on 291 for $4 million. And so we hope that continues through the budget process in Washington, D.C. Also want to announce that we are accepting applications still for our Civic Academy. So for those that are interested, please go online to the county's website and submit your application to participate in that program. And then the last item is the next commission meeting is next Thursday, the 21st at 6 o'clock here in the chambers.
Commissioner Wagner, did you have something on the comment?
I did on the $4 million, and it may be neither here nor there at this point, but was curious if we know if that is a direct earmarked allocation, or is that, as was done with the Flintlock flyover, as I recall, going back a few years, just sort of placed in the federal funds that were coming, infrastructure funds that were coming to the MPO, or do we know?
We don't know.
Okay, all right.
It was a very brief email from the Congressman's office, and so we appreciate that. So we're kind of waiting to see
Right.
next steps.
Love to have it, just was curious, but that can be for another time. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to commissioner comments, and I think I'll go ahead and start off this evening. One of the things that I want to mention is that Commissioner Carpenter is not with us this evening. Unfortunately, his mother, Marcia, passed away, so we certainly want to make sure that we send condolences to her husband, Greg, and to the rest of the Carpenter family and friends. My wife and I have known the Carpenters for probably over 30 years. Once you get to a certain point, you can stop counting years, obviously. But she was the most gracious lady. I've talked to a number of people during this time, and I have yet to find anybody who ever saw her give a cross or an unpleasant word. She was, just a very, very good person, and she's someone who will be missed by the circle of friends that she leaves behind, and certainly her family. A number of us, I think, were able to attend the the meeting with the families this afternoon, but certainly we do extend our condolences to the family of the Carpenter family. So with that, Commissioner Withington, if you'd like to make a comment.
Yeah, I was able to go, one of the guys that was able to go today, so just want to give my condolences to the Carpenter family. Also want to give a shout out to my alma mater, Winnetonka. We never really made it to state when I was in school, but they finished in 4th place in the men's state basketball tournament, so that's good to see. Also want to say thank you to Park Director John Davis. Had a constituent call me about some ADA issues at the boat dock, and I included John into that conversation, and he was able to work with our on-call construction, right? And they're working on some plans to make the boat docks ADA compliant. So I appreciate that. What else was there? Thank you to Carl and staff for working on getting North Main Street in Smithville done. I know that that's something that they've been pushing for. Now that we're getting that done, let's get that road out of our system and give that to Smithville. I know they've already said they'll take it, so it's always good to get something off of our plate. So I think that's all I have.
Commissioner Lawson?
And in talking about roads, let's get Rhine King done. They're calling. Speaking about John Carpenter, you know, John and I are probably as far apart philosophically and politically as two people can be. But I have to say that his mother, describing his mother is describing John. He is the most gracious, true gentleman, and whether we disagree very strongly, at the end of the day, John is always right there telling you, hey, have a good weekend, or giving you a hug. He's just a great guy. So I wish him he and his family, all the blessings they can receive right now, and we'll be glad to have him back when he's ready to come. So,
Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. I unfortunately was not able to attend that service today, but I'm so glad that we were well represented, as well as what was sent to those services. So thank you, County Administrator. I've known John and his family for a long time too. I think my colleague, you said it very well. You know, the apple really doesn't fall too far from the tree, and I too. As I've done for several weeks, it seems, said a few prayers. I'm going to say a few more, and I hope everyone realizes what we've lost. But thank you.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Thompson.
Jump on in here. So I'll start by saying, I really want to thank our 4-H friends for coming out. You guys are always welcome here, and I'll see you guys again probably next month at our meeting. But I will say, it's not beyond me that John's not here, and as we all know, there's a lot of emotions, okay? And I just pray for comfort and peace for John and his family at this time, and I think we all do. And I'll leave it with that.
Okay, thank you very much. With that brings us to a conclusion, so we are adjourned. Thank you very much.